Okay, early birds will start in exactly 28 seconds. How's that? As usual, I come on early because the nature of Facebook. Sometimes it's like the weather, violently changing. Good evening. It is 7 o'clock here in the northeast of the United States, and this is Kunchab Tarduling, or the Tibet Center, a Buddhist meditation study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey. And this is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma. Specifically, we're working on the Lamrim Chenmo, or stages on the path to enlightenment. In other words, from an ordinary person to a full Buddha. These are the steps you must take, the meditations you have to do, etc., and so forth. Any problems with the picture or the sound, let me know right away, or let Mr. Smith know right away. All the prayers we say are on the Tibet Center website, the tibetcenter.org, and the FAQ section. If there's anyone for whom you want us to pray for who has passed away recently, put their names in the chat box as soon as you can. Don't wait till the end, because there is a time lag. So we have a lot to do tonight. We're studying dependent arising in emptiness, as we normally do, for the last, 6 months or so, whatever. The volume 3 of the Lamrim Chenmo, that's our main text, and there are other supplemental materials that we'll use, including tonight. We'll start with a meditation on the mind that anyone, a non-Buddhist, can do. Someone who has no knowledge at all of Buddhism and doesn't want to even study Buddhism, but wants to know about this thing that goes around with them all the time, the mind. So we have a nice little presentation there. So we'll start. Prayer for the spread of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. To all the people living, for all the people living there, together with their near ones or living here, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen, just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the dharmas, called profound illumination, and at the same time noble Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayat Om Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. Well, Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now refuge and Bodhisattva vow, which we recite 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. May all the pains of living creatures ripen solely upon myself, and through the might of the Bodhisattva Sangha, may all beings experience happiness. May the teachings which are the sole medicine for suffering and the origin of every joy be materially supported and honored and abide for a very long time. I prostrate to Manjagosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. And now, as a cause for the swift return, to get results, of His Holiness, of Rato Chungla Rinpoche, His Holiness, has written this prayer for a swift return. You'll find it on our website. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lozang Tubuang Dorje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the Victor Lozang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence's end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Lozang Tenpei. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala Karmayam and Sri Mata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. So, as promised, we'll start with a analytical meditation, or a meditation you can do even if you're not a Buddhist, because you all have minds, and this applies to the nature of your mind. It's good to see all of you here tonight. I don't have everyone's name on this thing, so if you feel, I see Tara Mantra, nice to meet you. And the rest, let's see. Okay, and Jackie, yay. Okay, Lady Yay. For I forget, Wednesday night, Reverend Tenzin Karuna, Venerable Tenzin Karuna, whatever Jackie Healy, will give a lecture online from the parsonage in South Orange on 8 verses for training the mind. We're blessed to have her. Our sister has come home. Very nice to see. So, what are we talking about now? The mind, man. Yes, the mind. Matthew Ricard, on the Path to Enlightenment, his text, we're leading with the section that says, Understanding the Nature of the Mind, chapter 11. And Matthew introduces it. And the next 2 meditations will be glance meditation, you can call that whatever you wish. You can linger on, but since it's an hour class and it's shorter than that with the prayers involved, we'll just go through. But these are things you could go on, look up later on and think of each piece and meditate on it. However, Matthew Ricard, page 159 of this wonderful book, On the Path to Enlightenment. It's an anthology of his favorite Buddhist quotes. When the mind looks at itself, Venerable Ricard says, what can it learn about its own nature? The first thing that becomes apparent is that countless thoughts prompted by our feelings, our memories, and our imagination constantly rush through our mind almost without our knowledge. Yeah, who's in charge? Oh. But is there not also a basic consciousness always present behind this movement? Even in the absence of thoughts, a presence that could be called the fundamental ability of the mind to know or to be conscious, clear and knowing, understand that? So as thoughts arise, he continues, if we look at them closely, can we pin down any characteristic or attribute, any real existence to them? Where are they located? Do they have a color or a shape? However hard you look, you will not find anything else in the end but the bare faculty of knowing that we have just mentioned. You will find nothing intrinsically real, key word. It is in this sense that Buddhism says that the mind is, quote, empty of independent existence. That's his. So, getting at the same points from different angles. How can we make use of this notion of the emptiness of thoughts? Yeah, what's in it for us? Yeah. When a thought or an emotion such as anger arises in our mind, what usually happens? We let ourselves be overwhelmed by it. The thoughts grow and give rise to many other thoughts that disturb us, blind us, and encourage us to say and do certain things which may be violent, which may hurt others, and which we will probably come to regret, hopefully. Now, it is possible to examine the thoughts before they proliferate, instead of letting this chain reaction occur. Then we will realize that those thoughts and emotions do not have the solid reality that we had imagined, and it will be possible to break free from their grip. This requires a little thought on our part, but it's nothing strange. This is very close to home. It is home. So, if we can see that thoughts arise from pure awareness, key word, this is the Dzogchen view right now, the nature of mind, then dissolve back into it, like waves rising from and falling back into the ocean, it will be a big step towards inner peace, because thoughts will have lost much of their power to harm. We don't throw out thoughts, and eventually we'll use them, but that's the idea. Very simple metaphor. The mind is very still, like an ocean at the bottom, but at the top it fluctuates. Those are the thoughts, but there's still the same water that's in the ocean. It's interesting. Anyway, Dugo Chensei Rinpoche, a great saint who has been reincarnated. So he has 2 meditations now, which shouldn't take too long, but if they do, it's worth it. What we Dilgo Chensei says on page 160, what we normally call the mind is the deluded mind, a turbulent vortex of thoughts whipped up by attachment, anger, and ignorance. This mind, unlike enlightened awareness, is always being carried away by one delusion after another. True or false? You can verify this. So, thoughts of hatred or attachment suddenly arise without warning, triggered by such circumstances as an unexpected meeting with an enemy or a friend, and unless they are immediately overpowered with the proper antidote, they quickly take root and proliferate, reinforcing the habitual predominance of hatred or attachment in the mind and adding more and more karmic patterns. Big point. These things that occur just don't go away. They go, but some other thought takes place. But they lay down tracks, karmic tracks, that come back and create a future. So we really have to be aware of how much weight we put into these thoughts. Yet, however strong these thoughts may seem, Dilgo Chensei continues, they are just thoughts and will eventually dissolve back into emptiness. Once you recognize the intrinsic nature of the mind, he's using it in a different sense there, don't go crazy. These thoughts that seem to appear and disappear all the time can no longer fool you. Just as clouds form, last for a while, and then dissolve back into the empty sky, so deluded thoughts arise, remain for a while, and then vanish into the voidness of mind. In reality, nothing at all has happened. When sunlight falls on a crystal, lights of all colors of the rainbow appear, yet they have no substance that you can grasp. Likewise, all thoughts in their infinite variety, devotion, compassion, harmfulness, desire, are utterly without substance. They are not inherently existing. It's probably the saying with our language, you would say, without substance. There is no thought that is something other than voidness. Think. Everything is empty. Us, thoughts, everything. Just like the waves of the ocean are the same as the still part of the ocean, water. So there is no thought that is something other than voidness or emptiness. Let's use our term. If you recognize the void nature of thoughts at the very moment they arise, they will dissolve. Attachment and hatred will never be able to disturb the mind. Deluded emotions will collapse by themselves. No negative actions will be accumulated, so no suffering will follow. The antidote he's applying? Awareness. Look behind it, the watcher seeing this. Oh. It's a skill we have to acquire, and it's got the best rewards of all. Inner peace, the ability to go on to Buddhahood. So that's the point. His second meditation now is on page 161. Same theme. He just takes it from a different angle. Rinpoche says the mind has in general two aspects, stillness and movement. Sometimes the mind is quiet and free from thoughts, like a calm pool. This is stillness. Eventually, thoughts are bound to arise in it. This is movement. All right? In truth, however, although in a sense there is a movement of thoughts within the stillness, there is actually no difference between these two states. Just as the nature of stillness is voidness or emptiness, the nature of movement is also voidness or emptiness. Stillness and movement are merely two names for the one mind. Most of the times we are unaware of our state of mind and pay no attention to whether the mind is still or moving. I can vouch for that. We don't. He continues, while you are meditating, a thought might arise in your mind. For instance, the idea of going shopping. Aha. If you are aware of the thought and just let it dissolve by itself, then that's the end of it. But if you remain unaware of what is happening and let that thought grow and develop, it will lead to a second thought, the thought of having a break from your practice. And in no time at all, you will find yourself actually getting up and going out to the market. What you did was forgot the awareness, forgot that you're watching these thoughts and, oh, that's it, that's real. This thought, I got to go shopping. Hey, how far have those impulses taken you in life? Are you a full Buddha yet? Well, then they didn't bring you to where you want to go. So anyway, he continues. Soon, many more thoughts and ideas will arise. How are you going to buy this, sell that, and so forth? By this point, you'll be a very long way from your meditation. Yeah. It is completely natural that thoughts keep on arising. The point is not to try to stop them, which would be impossible anyway, but to liberate them. This is done by remaining in a state of simplicity. Now, that's probably a technical term. I don't know exactly what he means by simplicity. That needs some bearing out. That's where we maybe, I don't know. I'll see if I can do a little reading around this, some other Matthew's works, because Matthew translated this, so see how he uses that word. This is done by remaining in a state of simplicity, which lets the thoughts arise and vanish again without stringing onto them any further thoughts. It's somewhat explaining it there. When you no longer perpetuate the movement of thoughts, they dissolve by themselves without leaving any trace. Otherwise, karmic imprint. When you no longer spoil the state of stillness with mental fabrications, you can maintain the natural serenity of mind without any effort. Natural serenity, so that's the mind's nature. It is serene. Sometimes let your thoughts flow and watch the unchanging nature behind them. Sometimes abruptly cutting the flow of thoughts, look at naked awareness. Innumerable thoughts and memories stirred up by the tendencies to which we have become habituated arise in the mind. One after the other, each thought seems to vanish into the past, only to be replaced as the next, in its turn, becomes fleetingly present to the mind before itself giving way to future thoughts. Verify this on your own, in your own mental laboratory. Each thought, he continues, each thought tends to pick up the momentum of the one before it, so that the influence of a string of thoughts grows as time passes. This is called the chain of delusion. The chain of delusion. And where are we? We're bound in the chain of delusions. Rinpoche continues, just as what we call a rosary is in fact a string of single beads, so what we usually call the mind is really a succession of momentary thoughts. A trickle of thoughts makes the stream of consciousness the mind stream, and the mind stream leads on to the ocean of existence. He's talking about cyclic existence. Our belief that the mind is a real entity is a conclusion based on insufficient investigation. We believe a river we see today is the same river we saw yesterday. But in reality, a river never stays the same, even for a second. The water that made up yesterday's river will surely be part of the ocean by now. The same is true for the countless thoughts that run through our, quote, mind from morning to evening. Our mind stream is just a succession of instantaneous thoughts. There is no separate entity that you can point out as being a mind. Now, if we analyze the thought process carefully, it becomes evident that past thoughts are already dead, like a corpse. Future thoughts have not yet been born. As for the present thoughts, they cannot be said to have any properties such as location, color, or shape. See how we normally think and how that thinking is not accurate for certain improvements on the path. In other way, they leave no traces. He says they have no color or shape. Present thoughts, in other words, they leave no traces, and indeed they are nowhere to be found. In fact, there could be no possible point of contact between past, present, and future thoughts. This gets a little heavy now. If there were any real continuity, for instance, a past thought and a present thought that would necessarily, let me do it again. If there were any real continuity between, for instance, a past thought and a present thought, that would necessarily mean either that the past thought is present or that the present thought is past. Consider that. Very simple. If the past really could extend to the present in this way, it would follow that the future must already be present. But nevertheless, ignorant of the true nature of thoughts, we maintain the habit of seeing them as being continuously linked one after another. This is the root of delusion, and this is what allows us to be more and more dominated by our thoughts and emotions until total confusion reigns. We can't be blamed. No one has tapped us on the shoulder and pointed this out until we met Buddhism. Well, good teachers in other religions, I don't know. So we need help there. Otherwise, everything going through, that's, this is that, that's this. I'm in this mood, I'm in that mood. So, Rinpoche continues, it is of vital importance to be aware of the arising of thoughts and to still the waves of thoughts that assail you. Anger, for instance, is an extremely destructive tendency which spoils all the good qualities you may otherwise have. No one enjoys the company of an angry person. There is nothing inherently very frightening about the appearance of snakes, but because they are generally very aggressive, the mere sight of them inspires fear and loathing. Whether in a human or a snake, such a preponderance of anger is nothing more than the outcome of an unchecked accumulation of negative thoughts. That's its cause. Oh, get rid of the cause. If at the very moment an angry thought arises, you recognize it for what it is and understand how negative it is, your anger will calm down of its own accord. and you will always be able to stay on good terms with everyone. We're not stupid. We say, oh no, this is danger. Oh, pull back. Suddenly we have the strength to pull back. On the other hand, if you let that first angry thought give rise to a second angry thought, in no time at all, your anger will be completely out of control, and you will be ready even to risk your life to destroy your adversary. So he ends on that note. Great Lama. A lot of his, we read from his works from time to time here. It's a nice, refreshing point of view. Moving towards the LAM rim ever so slightly. A little more technical advice from Khensa Jampa Tegchuk. The book is called Insight into Emptiness, edited and introduced by the Venerable Thupten Chödrön, the light of the Dharma, as her name means. He was the abbot of Serajay, and also he has an Acharya degree in Sanskrit, so he's very smart. Sanskrit's supposed to be very, very difficult, and those schools are very strict. So he's a brain, as we would say in the vernacular here. We're going to remember we said last time when we read from this book, there are three types of dependence. We're in this section on dependent arisings and what this and that means. So there are three types of dependence. Dependence on causes, dependence on whole and parts, that sort of thing, and dependence on conceptual designation or designating consciousnesses or whatever you want to call it. This is dependence on causes and conditions. He's going to flesh it out a little so we get an idea what they mean. In the next sessions, not the next one, that'll be Venerable Jackie's lecture, but after that we'll take up the other two dependencies. So we understand when they say dependent arising, what it means. This is an everyday reality. This is with us all the time, and we better get friendly with it because it's the way out of jail. I love to say that. Way out of jail. It'll wake us up. Page 141 of this book, Insight into Emptiness, dependence on causes and conditions. Dependence on causes and conditions, or causal dependence, is the first level of dependent arising, the basic one. All conditioned phenomena, and therefore all impermanent phenomena, anything conditioned is impermanent, are dependent on causes and conditions that produce them. Anything produced through depending on causes and conditions is a conditioned phenomenon. And he starts listing some of them, and it'll surprise you. Food, drinks, houses, clothes, yeah. Education, families, persons, pets, social status, political parties, happiness, anger, love, opinions, and so on, all caused. This is the coarsest level of dependent arising, and it is accepted by all Buddhist tenet systems, from Vaibhashikas onto Vaibhashikas, whatever they are, onto Prasangikas. Spend some time looking around at the people and things in your environment. Well, we do that, yes. And reflect on the long history of causes and conditions that led to their existence. Nothing more real than that. Think about mental qualities as well, he continues. Love, compassion, anger, jealousy, moods, pleasure, pain, and so on. And contemplate their unique causes and conditions. Abstract things. This is very heavy now. I have to put this away because the cat is lurking near the glass of water, and we don't want the computer to fry underwater, and that'll be the end of the class. So anyway, love, compassion, pleasure, and pain, and contemplate their unique causes and conditions. Abstract things, such as democracy, the idea of an hour, time, speed, and so forth, also depend on causes and conditions. None of these arise from their own power. They all exist only because their causes exist and the conditions for their production came together. We think about this and it takes away the knee-jerk reaction of everything solid out there and I'm here, and slowly we break that barrier down. And we break down the suffering that it causes. Yay! Thank you, Jackie. Causal dependence refers to the way an effect arises by depending on the causes and conditions that produced it. Okay. Dependent on prior causes, effects arise. For example, in dependence on a seed, a plant will grow. All right, we're with you. The Buddha teaches this type of dependent arising extensively among many examples. In the 12 links of dependent origination, the Buddha describes the causal dependence of cyclic existence in detail, emphasizing that our situation does not come about haphazardly, by accident due to unrelated causes, due to permanent causes, and so on. That's how we got here. That's how you get out of the cycle, off the wheel. In praise of the world transcendent, the Lokatita Stava, Nagarjuna praises the Buddha, who, unlike non-Buddhist logicians, teaches that suffering and happiness arise dependently. You like happiness? Create the causes. And here it is. And no doubting that this is Nagarjuna. Here he goes with his famous 4 lines. Dialecticians assert that suffering is created by itself, created by another, by both self and another, or that it has no cause at all. You have stated it to be dependent arising. I'm getting a text. I hope it's not about the... No, it's not. It's that famous Kakyeron Lawrence Frummo. Goes on and on. Good. So you're getting... I'm assuming you're getting this presentation. This teaching... Geshe Tekchak goes on. This teaching on dependent arising is magnificent because it makes clear that each cause itself is a result of a previous cause, and that in turn produces future effects. Oh, I'm going to push the animal away. The Buddha also clarified that all miserable results can be ceased by stopping their causes. That's the meaning of the mantra Om Ye Dharma Hetu Brahma, that one. And that if we do not create the cause for happiness, it will not come. Since the path to enlightenment relies upon causal dependence, the Buddha instructs us on the entire spectrum of causes to create in order to experience enduring happiness and joy that we seek. In other words, Buddha's just saying, here's the causes, get on it, guys. He doesn't talk like that. Well, maybe he did in his day, I don't know. But that's what we have to do. So we shouldn't think there's a big wall, I can't do this, I can't do that. Shut up. Take your time, hit the books, on your own pace, small bites. And you'll be surprised, I'm going to be surprised. So anyway, back to work. You had enough fun. The Lamrim Chenmo. Okay, we're still broadcasting. Good. So I don't know what people... We're on volume 3. We're on page 143. We left off there. We're just about to quote Chandrakirti's Prasanapada, or clear words. And it is clear. Well, this guy's got to be relegated. I'm going to put the cell phone on the floor so I don't have to be looking at it. Ay. Chandrakirti's clear words. Here comes a dialogue between those who say they're Madhyamikas, but they're not, but they're really realists. So what it is the people who hold it to inherent existence, and the Prasangika Madhyamikas are blowing it out of the water, saying, no, that's not reality, this is reality, and if you're with reality, you won't suffer anymore. Page 143. Objection. This claim, that things lacking inherent intrinsic existence will wipe out everything that the Bhagavad said. This is the realist saying, yeah, well, what you're saying is going to wipe out everything Buddha said, such as you experience the fruition of the karma you yourself has done. Wipes out karma. By making this claim, you mistakenly deny karma and its effects. Therefore, you are the supreme nihilist. So there, it should be a food fight at this point, but it's not. They're very well mannered. Reply. We're not nihilists. We refute both the proposition of existence and the proposition of non-existence. It gets sticky, so we'll redo this in Geshe Sopa's language too, so relax. We illuminate the path free from these two, the path that leads to the city of nirvana. We do not claim karma, agents, effects, and so forth do not exist. What do we say? We posit that these things lack intrinsic nature, or we would say they are not inherently existent. Okay? The objection comes back. Oh yeah? There is still a defect in your position because it is not tenable for things that lack intrinsic existence to function. The old argument again. Reply from the Madhyamikas. No such defect, because functionality is not attested in that which has intrinsic nature. Functionality is attested only in that which lacks intrinsic nature. So now Tsong-kha-pa, on the bottom of 143 and going on, is going to just redo that whole argument in his own language. He's going to comment on it. So it's important, like the sutras say something in verse and in prose, to reinforce the idea, because we're not used to these ideas. etc. and so forth. So now Tsong-kha-pa says, the essentialist position is that the denial of intrinsic nature prevents karma from giving rise to effects. This is no different from the assertion by Tibetans who claim to be Banyamikas, he's getting a little dig in here, that the arguments which refute intrinsic existence refute cause and effect. Same argument. The Madhyamaka and the essentialists agree that if one denies cause and effect, one becomes the most extreme sort of nihilist, or annihilationist, sometimes they say, right? Page 144. However, the Madhyamaka does not deny cause and effect. Still, the essentialist calls the Madhyamaka a nihilist or an annihilationist, there's the word, supposing that if you refute intrinsic nature, then you certainly must also refute cause and effect. A leap that's not logical, by the way. Most Tibetans who claim to be Madhyamikas seem to agree with the essentialist assertion that if an argument refutes intrinsic nature, it must also refute cause and effect. Yet, unlike essentialists, these Tibetans seem pleased that reason refutes cause and effect, taking this to be the Madhyamaka system. They seem pleased. How dumb is that? Ay, ay, ay. In answer to this objection, Chandrakirti responds, we are not nihilists. We eliminate the propositions of existence and non-existence. We eliminate the path to liberation. You're locked in this thing, but it exists or it doesn't exist. Relax. There's a degree of existence. And the opposite of it is not non-existence. It's lack of inherent existence. Shh, don't tell anyone. Anyway, the rest of the passage shows how he avoids the position of existence and non-existence by saying, we do not claim that karma and the karma effects and so forth are non-existent. This way, Chandrakirti avoids the nihilist position. No, we don't say they're non-existent. Excuse me. We would be nihilists if we asserted that cause, effect, and so forth do not exist, but we do not assert this. In response to the question, well, what do you hold? What do you assert? Chandrakirti says, we posit or assert that these, karma, effects, and so forth, lack intrinsic nature. They're there, but they're not intrinsically there. But you don't see the difference between being there and being intrinsically there. He thereby avoids the position of existence. And you can't blame the other side, because our natural way of seeing things is seeing inherent existence. We walk around with it all the time. We'll stay in bed with it, I don't know. But we see everything as inherently existent. We're not trained yet. The statement, next paragraph on page 144, about the middle of the page, if you got the book, there is still a defect in your position because it is not tenable for that which it lacks intrinsic nature to function. Here we go again. Remember the king riding in on a chariot? So, it indicates that's their objection. And he says, now you Madhyamikas say we do not propound non-existence, we propound an absence of intrinsic nature, but you still cannot escape the fallacy that we have already stated. Without intrinsic nature, cause and effect are not tenable. The exact opposite. Hello. Those essentialists raise this objection because in their system, Tsong-kha-pa is talking now, there's no difference between the absence of intrinsic nature and non-existence. They don't see. In reply, Chandrakirti says that functions, such as causes giving a rise to effects, etc., are impossible in the context of intrinsic existence because intrinsic existence is a static state. Nothing affects anything else. These things are inherently there. They don't change, they don't react, they don't interrelate. Impossible. But that's the grid we put on reality and box ourselves, and we create our own prison. Ouch. Food's terrible, too. No, never mind. So it says that functions such as causes giving rise to effects are impossible in the context of intrinsic existence and are possible only in the absence of intrinsic existence. And now Chandrakirti is commenting on the 400 stanzas. The 400 stanzas is called of Aryadeva, the direct student of Nagarjuna. And it's called sometimes Yogic Deeds of the Bodhisattvas. I think it's changed now, its title, but it's a very, very seminal book. It's 400 stanzas, 4 lines each. Here's a quote from that. Chandrakirti is commenting on it, not the text itself, but Chandrakirti's comment on it. We are not proponents of non-existence, for we are proponents of dependent arising. Are we proponents of, quote, real things? No, because we are proponents only of dependent arising. By real, that's a technical term, meaning intrinsic things, but we are proponents only of dependent arising. What do we propound? Yeah, what do you Hello, what do you propound, sir? We propound dependent arising. What is the meaning of dependent arising? It means the absence of intrinsic existence. That's the only way things can move about. It means no intrinsically existent production. It means the arising of effects whose nature is similar to a magician's illusion, a mirage, a reflection, a phantom city, an emanation, or a dream. It means emptiness and selflessness. Tsong-kha-pa now comments on page 145. Chandrakirti shows that by asserting dependent arising, you can avoid the two extremes, the position that things exist and the position that things do not exist. He avoids the position that things exist by explaining that dependent arising means no intrinsically existent production. How can you produce something that's intrinsically? Intrinsic existence implies no movement, just a complete static reality. So cause and effect is movement. Silly. We know better, but we don't. We don't act that way. We don't see the world that way. But now we're learning. Yay. Jackie, you got into me. So he avoids the position that things exist by explaining that dependent arising means no intrinsically existent production. And he avoids the position that things do not exist by indicating that dependent arising refers to the arising effects that are like a magician's illusion. Why like an illusion? Because to us they appear solidly real, but they're not. And it's possible to be affected by illusions. You go to the movie, there's no real people there, but you start crying, you start laughing, you get angry. So, therefore, quote, thing, they're now parsing the word thing or examining the word thing. What do they say? Unpacking. Oh, there are my socks. Therefore, thing may refer either to intrinsic existence or to the capacity to perform a function. Between these two, which one is right, which one is wrong? The thing in the essentialist position that things exist refers only to intrinsic existence. The thing, as the Prasankikas use the word, in the position that things do not exist, refers to things that perform functions. For in avoiding these two extremes, Chandrakirti refutes intrinsic existence and indicates that there do exist causes and effects that are like a magician's illusions. Remember, the magician knew he created fake things, fake women's forms, etc., and still was attracted to them, but underneath he said, no, this is I created. The audience didn't know that it was illusion. They got all affected by it. So that's the little parable they tell to show you how the appearance is not, appearances are illusory. Let me leave it at that before I step on my own ignorance. Chandrakirti's commentary on the 400 stanzas says, he's continuing. Question. This is on page 145, middle of the page. Do you Madhyamikas claim that there are no memory consciousnesses that have as their objects the things of the past? Interesting. He's attacking from a different view. Reply from the Madhyamikas. Who would claim that such do not exist? We don't eliminate dependent arising. The Master Aryadeva himself gives a precise statement on how memory exists. And he quotes Aryadeva's two lines. Therefore, the arising of what we call memory is only an unreal object with an unreal subject with an unreal object. The subject itself is non-intrinsic, unreal, I mean non-intrinsic exists. And the memory itself, the thought, is non-inherently existent, an unreal object, the thing. Therefore, Chandrakirti continues, what memory observes is something in the past. If the past thing essentially existed, then the memory of it would be observing an object that essentially exists. Therefore, that memory would be essentially existent. But insofar as that past thing lacks intrinsic existence, the memory observing it also lacks intrinsic existence, because everything does. Therefore, Aryadeva has established that the past object and the memory of it are, quote, unreal. Now he explains, unreal means only lacking intrinsic existence and dependent arising. That's what unreal means in this context. It does not mean the non-existence of things that can perform functions. A past thing is not entirely non-existent because it is an object of memory, and its effects can be seen. very important. A past thing is not entirely non-existent because it is an object of memory and its effects can be seen. It also does not essentially exist. For if it did, it would have to be permanent and would have to be directly apprehensible. It's always around. It's permanent. It's intrinsically exists. It doesn't change. No such thing. So why are we arguing about this? Because that's the way we think things. That's our default position deep down. So, bottom of page 145, last two lines. Chandrakirti says that these past objects and such are not utterly non-existent and all are also not essentially existent. So they're not nothing, but they don't essentially exist. There's something. He explains that unreal or false means being a dependent arising. It does not mean that things do not exist. That's all. No problem now. Problem is the use of words, partly, because if you would have said something more clear in the beginning, you wouldn't be dragged through this argument. You'd be watching sports or something, or whatever you like, having pizza. Anyway, top of page 46, first full paragraph. Therefore, if you claim that these phenomena are essentially existent, then you are a proponent of, quote, real things. Remember what real is referring to? You have fallen to the extreme of intrinsic existence. You fell for its word, eternalism. We use that sometimes. However, to hold that these phenomena are simply existent does not make you a proponent of real things or a proponent of real existence. So, but are not a nihilist. We're not. So we're not eternalists by thinking that way. We're not nihilists also. Similarly, if you hold that internal and external things are non-things, in other words, devoid of the capacity to perform functions, then you are propounding the non-existence of things and you have fallen to the extreme of non-existence. A circuitous route to show them mistakes they're making. Very debatish. Too bad I'm not smart enough for that. However, you do not fall to an extreme of non-existence by saying things lack intrinsic existence. That's the same thing being pounded. We're going to go to J.J. Soap. I don't think we have time tonight. We only got 4 minutes, so we'll stay with this. But next class on this topic, we'll take Geshe Sopa's take on it. He'll run through the whole argument. Middle of page 146. Some Tibetans who claim to be Madhyamikas, these are guys that are gone now. Why are we bringing them up? Some Tibetans who claim to be Madhyamika or gals that are gone, do not distinguish utter non-existence from the absence of intrinsic existence and do not distinguish essential existence from mere existence. Another word, I told it means Sam in Tibetan, T-S-A-M, Sam, mere existence. They hope to avoid falling to the extreme of existence and non-existence simply by saying, oh, here you go, get ready, strap in for this, it's the dentist chair. We do not claim that things are non-existent, Mepa in Tibetan. We say that they are not existent, Yodpa, Yinpa. We do not claim that things exist, Yodpa. We say that they are not non-existent, Mepa, Ma Yinpa. Yeah, all right? Aspirin, please, thank you. And Tsong-kha-pa puts it in its place right now. He said, this is nothing but a mass of contradictions. Shut up. It does not in the least explain the meaning of the middle way. Stop playing with words. And he took off his shoe and threw it at them. No, he didn't do that. He's a nice guy. For when they refute others, they perform the refutation via an investigation of whether or not something intrinsically exists. Again, they start from the wrong on the wrong foot. It goes nowhere. Therefore, they have no limit. They have to limit, rather, the possibilities to two. It either intrinsically exists or it doesn't. That's it. They box themselves into that position. Poor things. Yet, in making their own assertions, they claim that there is something that is neither of the two. Well, that's a lot of laughs. Why should they have to limit the possibilities to two when they investigate something to see whether or not it intrinsically exists? Because if there were a third possibility beyond these two, it would not be reasonable to investigate the question, which is it, intrinsically existent or not intrinsically existent? It would be as though there were a color and someone asked, is it blue or is it yellow? No, there's more options than that. That's what he's getting at, in a way. So Geshe Sopa next week will clear this up a little bit. Probably next Monday. Limiting things, bottom of page 146, Tsong-kha-pa continues. limiting things to two possibilities. Either they intrinsically exist or they do not, derives from the universal limitation that anything imaginable either exists or does not exist. A dichotomy, right? Similarly, the limitation that what truly exists must either truly exist as single or truly exist as plural is based on the universal limitation that anything must be either single or plural. And they use these tools. When there is such a limitation, any further alternative is necessarily precluded. Hence, it is utter nonsense to assert a phenomena that is neither of these two. As Nagarjuna's refutation of objections says, if the absence of intrinsic nature were refuted, then the presence of intrinsic nature would be proven. Moreover, there will always be some doubt in the minds of those who make these claims because they have no way of making a definitive list that excludes any further alternative. This is because, as they see it, the exclusion of one possibility, such as exists or does not exist, does not entail the other possibility. If they accept that there are some cases such as is and is not, which include any further alternatives, then they should know that it is exactly the same in the case of exists and does not exist. Evidently, their position is an overly literal misunderstanding of Madhyamaka texts that say is not existent and is not non-existent. They get caught in that thing, and who wouldn't? I mean, they can't blame them. Therefore, if, as they claim on page 147, it is inappropriate to say exists or does not exist, then it would be also wrong to say is not existent and is not non-existent, because those Madhyamaka texts say that you should reject all four possibilities, and we'll leave it at that because we're out of time. Again, I'll mention it. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Venerable Tenzin Karuna, Jackie Healy, will give her initial lecture at the Tibet Center on 8 verses of training the mind, which we say every time we meet. So let's see for whom we will pray. It was nice to meet Tara Mantra and company. Thank you very much for everything, you guys. I remember you now. Your memory came to mind because you were the monk that had tattoos on his arms years ago, and I would say, "Oh, monks have tattoos now." It was the first I saw of it. That was a while ago. Everyone has tattoos. No, except me. I don't have a canvas that would accept the colors. Truth of the recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. Whoever you wish to pray for, the victims of the earthquake, the wars that are going on, the terrible murders that are going on. Right on Times Square, somebody was shot dead. Amazing. Anyway, I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavad, Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He's completely liberated from suffering. He's completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats, who rise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy, and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They're worthy of veneration with joined palms. They're worthy of receiving prostration. They're a field of glorious merit. They're completely capable of receiving all gifts. They're an object of generosity. They're a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to their disciplines. They are wholly field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. As a further cause for the quick return of Ratha-Chungla Rinpoche, His Holiness recommends we say this prayer for the flourishing of J. Tsong-kha-pa's teachings. On our website, of course. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as a conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When of yore in the presence of Buddha Indraketu, he made his vow. The conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. That the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread, he offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view, free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation, cleansed of dark fading and fog, his pure conduct, practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learned, since he extensively sought out learning, reverent, rightly applying it to himself. Good, dedicating all for beings and the doctrine, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to explanations of the three Pitakas, realized teachings, practice of the three trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as a causal vehicle, with great bliss achieved by method, the effect vehicle. Heart essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors, like the main guardians of the three beings' paths, the quick-acting Lord, Vaishravana, Karmayama, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, reverend holders of the teaching, and by the increase of power of its patrons, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. So now 8 verses of the mind, which Venerable Karuna will expound on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. If you want to know more about Venerable Karuna, January 15th, excuse me, I'm all right. We did a whole class interview with her. She's from the lineage of Ratha-Chungla Rinpoche, back to the days of his cat, Jack Benny. Very well schooled. She's a blessing to us, so I'm looking forward to it. 8 verses on training the mind. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness, directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the eight worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. So, as mentioned, our next class, 7 o'clock from the parsonage. You can attend if you wish. And it'll also be online. Jack Benny, I should explain, was Rinpoche's cat. And so he had it a long time ago. So that's Venerable Jackie goes back to that time. Thank you for your patient listening. This is a very difficult topic. It is the key topic to Buddhism. Sutra and Tantra rely on this world, on this final view of the nature of reality. So thanks for your patient listening. Big love to all of you. Thanks.